Ladies and gentlemen, it's Ben Thornley's back.
How are we doing?
Oh,
I tell you what, your viewers must be sick of me. I was only on a couple of weeks ago. I was hoping that Russell might take a little bit of the load off, but such is technology these days.
Oh, bless him. I'm blaming him. I'm going to blame him for that one, to be honest with you. Yeah. Well, what we're going to do, I did have this prepped for Russell. I had a little message for him from your old mate Lee Martin. So I think as he's not here and he can't defend himself, I think it's only fair that we bully him a little bit. So cast your eyes on this.
Well, the one that stands out for me that I remember my mate Russell Beardsmore was quite a small, really slim lad at 16. And I remember we used to take the kit from Old Trafford as apprentices in a big sack. So you'd put all the kit into the sack, and it was quite a big thing. You fill it with a full first team kit, and then we'd all take it to Old Trafford. This one day, we all put Russell Beardsmore inside this sack, tied it up at the top, and then we put him in the back of the van. And just as we got out of the cliff doors onto the main road, we opened the back doors and we put Russell out of the back of the van onto the middle of the main road in this sack tied up, so he couldn't get out. I mean, we wouldn't get away with stuff like that now. I mean, stuff like that. I mean, it happened to all of us, and we'd be locked in the sauna.
I mean, just any opportunity. I was going to ask him about pranks, but as he's not here to defend himself,
I tell you what, I didn't know about that, and I'm surprised as well because Russell and Lee are people that I spend a lot of time on the phone with. Obviously, I work on match days with them. We play in matches together, and I didn't know about that. But Russell was one of the worst for pranking other people, I can assure you. So I'm actually quite glad that happened to him.
Well, you've got to elaborate on that. Surely there's a prank you can tell us about.
Oh, listen, we hazing, they called it, and it was something that went on in all dressing rooms. It wasn't just at Manchester United, and it was a way to sort of initiate, to sort of toughen you up as a junior, and all the lads that obviously had gone up from first years to second years who had all that done to them. It was now their turn to be the instigators and make us feel particularly uncomfortable. But it didn't actually go on that long with us. There were things like, you had to chat a mop up, pretend a mop was a woman. You had to chat a mop up, and you had to do daft dances and sing songs, and any sort of humiliating stuff that you can think of. They would have already thought of it before you, and you knew that you were going to be in for it. But because of obviously the team that I grew up in, there was one particular lad. I'm not going to mention his name because that wouldn't be fair to him. But he lost his rag. I mean, massively lost his rag. And his father happened to be a friend of Brian Kidd's. And when he got home, this lad, and he mentioned what had gone on, his dad was up in arms, and he phoned Brian Kidd. And the next morning, our foreman was taken upstairs by Eric Harrison, our youth team manager. And from then on in, I think none of us were in the room, but he told him under no uncertain terms that was the end of it. And we never got another thing done to us in all our time that we were there. And I'm pretty sure that it does still go on. And you know what? It is meant in a little bit of humour and a bit of fun. But I think that there are some people that try and take it a little bit too far. And one of our lads who was in my year, he took exception to it, and it never went on after that.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame because, it's all about preparation for stepping up into the world of being a Manchester United player, isn't it? And a big debate we have on here a lot is what it takes to play for, well, obviously Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs in the country, but to step over that white line and prepare yourself to play for Manchester United. What does it take to really that level of confidence?
You have to be confident. There's no two ways about that. You've got to have a belief and a faith in your own ability.
Yeah.
You have to be mentally strong as well. There are so many players that have come through the doors at Manchester United, either through the academy and into the first team, or been bought for huge amounts of money, that have just not really had a pre-thought of what playing for Manchester United is all about, and the expectation levels are enormous. The fan base is, millions the worldwide, and you are playing for a club that is steeped in history and tradition, and you need to be at the top of your game, and it can be intimidating for some people, and I know because I've done it, and I know how intimidating it can be. And unfortunately, I didn't get the opportunity to be able to have a sustained time at Manchester United and in their first team. But you do have to have talent, no question about it. You wouldn't be playing for Man United if you wouldn't. But there are other aspects of life that you have to have, and one of them is the mental strength. And if you've not got that, you will fail.
Absolutely. I've been corrected already. When I said Manchester United is one of the biggest clubs in the world, apparently it is the biggest club in the world. So I do apologise, Kia, for saying that. However, we might be able to get Russell Beardsmore back on. We're going to try. Russell, are you with us, my friend? Kind of.
Oh,
Hi, how are you doing?
Yay!
Oh,
the miracle of technology in Bury.
Have we made it?
We're on, mate. We're on live.
There's no internet in Bury, unfortunately.
Nah, stick another couple of 50p's in. Well, Russell, I'm going to full disclosure. We recently we had Lee Martin on the show, and he told us about a time that the first team pranked you by putting you in the kit bag.
Oh yeah, I can't remember that one. Yeah. Do you want the story? Do you?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. We had a guy. We had a guy who was a year older than me. I think Ben might remember him. The lad Stevie Gardner. He was. He wasn't me saying he was quite horrible to the rest of us, be honest. And he was the main culprit behind it. And we used to take the kit over on the minibus, and they were like giant mail sacks, and they were like you could fit a person basically in them. So they decided to we'll drive over, we'll empty the kit. So they had an empty mail sack, and I said, "Oh, come on, let's go back to the training ground at the Cliff." So yeah, so we all got on, and that was the days you could park at the front of Old Trafford at the main bit, which near the mega store, and it was that huge car park bit there, and they decided, three of them, and I was fighting like mad to avoid it, to put me in the kit bag and tie it up, and then drop me, and it hurt as well. They dropped me in the car park, and I was just hopping around in the car park at Old Trafford, and people were walking past, not letting me out, and I just couldn't get out because it was like cloth, like a sack, like you did at school in the sack race. But this was a massive one with a string draw bit, and you just could not break your way out. I think about 25 minutes later, somebody untied me. So, but Stevie Gardner, he was horrible. He used to Geordie lad, great lad, but horrible to the younger guys. And he used to put people in the dryers, like the giant dryers, and shut the door, and you'd be spinning around in a dryer, and screaming. So yeah, he wasn't the nicest, but yeah, that's for another day. The other one.
You're saying that with a smile on your face, at least. So I think it's only fair, because obviously we've had a little bit of fun at your expense. We've actually got a message for you as well, Ben, which you might enjoy.
I want to ask Ben as well if he still wears that leather jacket.
Well, we said he looked like Ian Beale.
Yeah, if he does, tell him I said please don't, especially on a night out.
I will. Sorry, Ben, but last time we were on, we've lost Russ again. Are you there, buddy? We've lost Russ again. Yeah, last time you were on, we were teasing you about that leather jacket. So when I was advertising you coming back on, Wes Brown made sure that he wanted to tell you never to wear that jacket again.
Right, I'll make sure that I speak to Wes, as I do every day of the week, and I'll speak to him in the morning, and I'll just say, "Oh yeah, what's this Ian Beale?" and I'll see what his response is. Yeah, do you know what? He's seen me every day for, I don't know, for the last, every weekday for the last 2.5 months. And he's never told me face to face. So I'll pull him about that in the morning.
Well, if it's any consolation, he was taking a mickey out of me as well, because I got my Newcastle picture up there. And he said next time that he's on, he wants a Sunderland picture. And now Sunderland have just missed out on the playoffs, haven't they? So I've sent him a lovely little message today about, like, give him a little stick about that.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. We can have a pop at him as well if he thinks it's a go to other people. Oh, he's a great lad, Wes.
He's good, isn't he?
He's real. Yeah, he's real good fun, and I enjoy spending time with him. He's brilliant.
And I'm actually really enjoying the Man United TV shows. Like, how are you finding them? Like, because obviously they've been going on for quite a long time, probably longer than you expected. Are you still enjoying them?
We've just done our 51st show.
Wow.
So that's how long we've been. And do you know what? The reason why I enjoy them is because, well, number one, it gives you a little bit of structure to your day because you can, in these unprecedented times, you find yourself sort of wandering around, not really knowing what to do because obviously you can't work. I'm gardened out, I can't do any more in the garden. My missus will tell you otherwise, but there's no chance I'm doing any more. But it does give you a bit of structure. But some of the guests that we've had on have been spectacular, and even for us, but certainly for this goes out on MUTV. We record the show in the morning, and we do it in the it goes out in the evening. And there are people from New Zealand, Australia, America, all parts of Indochina that take the trouble to actually watch it, and it gives them a little bit of a purpose as well. And we've had Paul Scholes recently, we've had Ryan Giggs, we've had the manager's been on, we've had Michael Carrick, Kieran McKenna, the coaching staff, previous players, Dwight York, Louis Saha. I mean, the list is pretty much endless. We've had 14 members of the squad that were in the treble winning side of 1999. So that is how much interest it is generated with the public, and we've enjoyed every single show that we've done. And obviously with the football season ready to resume next week, we're probably thinking that this week might be our last. But such has been the popularity of it that people have said, please, we've enjoyed this so much. Please don't abandon it altogether. So in some shape or format, we're hoping to continue it even when the season resumes and when the new season starts next year, because it's proved a massive hit.
There's certainly a market for it, and there's certainly, like, you could have a nice little YouTube television show catching up with interviews and showing a lighter side of the team and of the player, because we don't see that behind the scenes thing from the team, which would be quite nice.
Yeah, it would be. I think one of the things that they want to do going forward is maybe after a match day is be able to have permission to get one of the first team players on and also involve the general public. I think that would be brilliant. Manchester United have been superb throughout this lockdown, as everybody knows. Yes. They have shown a true class as to the club that they are, with the way that they've dealt with the things that they've done with the dealing with the NHS staff and the meals that they've done and the sign that they put up at Old Trafford. They've been absolutely tremendous. Not furloughed any of the staff either, which obviously some clubs have come in for a little bit of stick about. They've been tremendous, and that is what people want to know. They're desperate to get. They can't get that inside, but certainly if they know that there's a chance that a first team player is going to come on after a game and do a little bit of a 5 or 10 minute question and answer session, group of fans, or even just with a couple of fans, this pandemic has changed everything in the way that we do things, and one of these things has obviously been the team meeting, Zoom chats, however you want to make it, but that is going to be the way forward.
I think there's more to it than just first team players. I think there's an interest in the kit man. I think there's an interest in the young lads coming through. I think there's an interest in the training. I think it's limitless to what you can do. Even the guy that cuts the grass, I'm sure he's got a story, and I'm sure he's got things you could talk about. I think there's a lot of potential in that.
Everybody at Manchester United has got a story. One of our best chats that obviously was the kit manager for United for many a year, and a very very close friend of Sir Alex Ferguson, and he's obviously got some fantastic stories, some which he can tell, and pretty much probably a lot that he can't. But it's always fascinating always fascinating for people that don't get the chance to even come to Old Trafford to have an insight into the way that the club works and the people that are not just of the present but of the past as well, that are equally important and have made this club a fantastic place to be.
Absolutely right. And I think, to be honest with you, I'm going to change tact a little bit, Ben. Because Man United has this massive culture, I want to talk a little bit about Tony Dunne, because he passed away yesterday. What's the feeling like in Manchester United circles, and how can we pay tribute to Tony Dunne?
Yeah, well, a little sideline from Tony Dunne. Obviously, it's terrible what's happened, and unfortunately, we're in an era now where those players that played in the 50s and 60s we haven't, apart from Sir Bobby Charlton, for example, there is nobody left anymore who was sadly involved in the Munich air disaster that survived, and now there isn't anybody left. We had Alex Stepney on the chat this morning because of the news about Tony Dunne. And he came on and told everybody what a fantastic player he was, that he was very, very quiet. And the sideline was that, believe it or not, when I was about 12 or 13, I actually played with Tony Dunne's son in a Sunday League side, who was also Tony. And he was also very much the same. He was a super player, played in a different position, but he was also extremely quiet. And Alex, described him as being, he played 530 odd games for Man United in the 60s. And in those days, there were no substitutes. And he was a little bit of like a Dennis Irwin, a bit of an unsung hero. He was a 7 and 8 out of 10 every single game, played in the 1968 European Cup final. But other than that, where United have a base for a lot of the ex-players to have dinners and stuff like that, you never really heard much from him, and he didn't come to the forefront on interviews and stuff like that. But Alex said that was the way that he was as a player. And yeah, it's incredibly sad. And I mean, I haven't seen his son Tony for a long, long time, as you can imagine. But my condolences to Tony and the rest of the family, because to have achieved what he achieved is no mean feat. And I think there's only 7 other players in the history of Manchester United that played more games than him. So that just shows you what esteem he was held in.
I think it's only right that we pay tribute to the man as well. I really do.
Right.
I want to obviously put that to one side. Let's talk about what's going on in football, because obviously we've done one interview today. Let's talk about what's going on in football today, because the League 2 and League 1 have ended. So the promotions have happened, the relegations are happening. What's your thoughts on this?
I'm smiling because my mate, who's not too far away from me, he's got some work in London, so he's staying with me, and he's a huge Coventry City fan. And,
is he?
Yeah, and he's obviously had the great news that Coventry have not only been promoted but promoted as champions. So he's arms aloft at the moment.
Good lad. Good lad.
I mean, I think that League 2 had already decided that they were calling it a day, and I'll be honest with you, I think League 1 were running out of time as well, and they obviously needed to have a plan B as to how they were going to work out who was going to get promoted and who was going to be in the playoffs. Somebody will have to explain to me why Wickham have replaced Peterborough for the final playoff berth. But that's the way that they've worked out with their calculations is to happen. And there are clubs there that are buzzing because they're going to start the following season in a division higher. Obviously, clubs that have not been given the chance to get out of the relegation zone that are going to be relegated as well. Listen, as I've already said to you, Rob, this pandemic has thrown up so many problems in the world itself. Football is just a very, very small part of it. I appreciate that, but that's what we're on here to talk about. And I wouldn't like to have been the one that makes the decisions. And I'm certainly hoping that when the Championship and the Premier League resume, that we don't have any repercussions at all. We haven't seen any or heard about any in Germany. I'm, fingers crossed to the hilt that doesn't happen in England as well.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And as a little side note to your mate down there, Coventry City, I said this to Wes Brown the other day, Coventry City's away kit this year is one of my favourite kits I have seen in years. That 40 years of two-tone shirt, I'm very tempted to buy one myself. Gorgeous.
Listen, Rob, he probably can just about hear you, because every time you mention it, his arms are going aloft. I'm not going to be able to calm him down. So I just need to say well done to Coventry City, but that's the end of it. Otherwise, I won't of it.
It won't make the edit, Ben. We won't edit it in.
You know what? On a personal note, really thrilled for Mark Robbins. Obviously, for a very small time, he was one of my teammates before he moved on to Norwich and made a really, really good career. And he's done so well as a manager. And I'm thrilled to bits for Mark, because he's worked extremely hard to get to where he is, and he's now getting his rewards.
That's what it's all about, isn't it? We've actually got a question come in from Lindsay Rowe. Said, "What is your best memory of your time at United?"
I mean, I have two. I always say that I have two. The first one that I say is because it's the first one I can remember. Is obviously winning the Youth Cup in '92. Manchester United hadn't won that cup since the Busby Babes, so it was a real cherished moment. And the lads that I played in that team with, everybody knows David Beckham, Gary Neville, Nicky Butt, Paul Scholes. They will all tell. Ryan Giggs obviously was still playing in that team. They will all tell you that is, despite what they won throughout their careers, esteemed careers, that they cherish that just as much, because it was the first thing that they won, and first thing of any note as well. It was a national competition, and Manchester United hadn't won it for years, and we all knew how dearly Sir Alex Ferguson wanted his youth team to succeed and to progress through. That was what his aim was when he first came into the club in '86, and 6 years later he got his wish. And not only that, but 5 or 6 of those lads went on and helped him win countless numbers of trophies in Premier League. So that is one. And secondly, and probably slightly more important, because it's something that not many people ever get the chance to do, was making my debut at West Ham. We're not there anymore at West Ham, because they're in the Olympic Stadium and it doesn't have the same feel. But any West Ham supporters will tell you, and any visiting supporters and players that have been to the Bowling Ground or Upton Park, whatever you want to call it, it was a hellish place to play. And it certainly wasn't a great place to warm up either, I can assure you. But making my debut has got to be the pinnacle for me, in terms of, I always wanted to play for Manchester United, and to be able to say that I lived my dream, and I played for the club that I loved from a 6-7-year-old boy is something special, and something that nobody can ever take away from me.
Beautiful answer. Mandy has been on with a question. Says, "What is your best Eric moment?" Do you have an Eric? I'm assuming she means Cantona, but do you have a great Eric moment?
Yeah, let me just tell you that I know Mandy. She's a terrific girl. She's
cool.
Yeah, she's a mad red. I was in Malta with her last year. She's crazy, but she's lovely with it. My best Eric moment, and do you know what? There've been many, but I was lucky enough to be playing in the game, and it's an iconic clip on any pieces that you'll see. When he played a 1-2 with Brian McClare against Sunderland, and he just chipped the ball from, I don't even know how he managed to get it over Lionel Perez's hands, and it just dipped in off the underside of the bar. But it wasn't the goal itself, which was spectacular enough. It was his celebration, where he just raised his hands aloft, and he sort of turned and as if he was like a king with a huge gown on, just announcing himself and saying, this is me, this is what I'm all about. And I was lucky enough to have come on in a sub in that game and played. In fact, if you look closely enough, I thought he was going to miss, and I was running in for the rebound. But such was his accuracy and his brilliance that it was an absolutely fantastic goal. And like I said, an iconic one. It's something that still gets shown today. And that was back in, 96, 97 time. So, in fact, it couldn't have been 97. He'd retired by then. So it was 96. Fantastic.
He's something else, that man, isn't he? Eric, he's something else, that fella.
Well, do you know what? I'm actually at the moment in the sort of, when people ask me questions, I'm talking about Bruno Fernandes in the same mold as in the one person that you can remember coming into a club and having a massive impact. Yeah. And I think Eric did that straight away. He was such an imposing figure, and he just had the self-belief like you wouldn't believe. And when you watch him in the dressing room and he gets himself psyched up for games, he's completely on his own. Obviously, I don't have that insight to Bruno Fernandes, but certainly on the field, he is proving to be a real talisman, somebody that has set Manchester United alight since he came in January. And I don't think it's any coincidence that we were on a real roll before this lockdown started, because he just grabbed it by the scruff of the neck. I was explaining to you earlier about players that have come to United and they've frozen. He has done exactly the opposite. He's not only, performed himself and scored goals. He's a wonderful set piece taker, free kicks, corners, and he has just elevated everybody to his level. And like I said, it's no coincidence that United were where they were and on the run that they were on with his influence on the pitch. He's been sensational.
That's always the Man United way as well, isn't it? They do like a flair player, a star player who's just going to win a match with something very, very special. From Cantona to Ronaldo to, there's countless names have been that person.
Yeah, Ronaldo, obviously, no disrespect to the guys that we've just mentioned because they're both fantastic players. But Ronaldo, after his first season, just took everything to a different level, not just at Manchester United, but going on to Real Madrid as well. And there's no words to describe his goal scoring to games ratio. It's just incredible, as is with Lionel Messi. They are on it and have been for the last 7 or 8 years, just on a completely different plane. But I'm talking about players that made an instant impact.
Okay.
Cantona and Bruno Fernandes have definitely been two of those.
Going back to the questions then, Nathan Chesters has a great question. Which player would you like to spend lockdown with?
Oh, God.
It's a good question.
That is a great question. I need Nathan to enhance on for what reason and for why.
Okay.
Difficult. If he can come back and say for what reason. I've got players that I know that will keep me intellectually tuned in, but I've also got players like David May that will have me ballooning round like something not right. So if you can be a little bit more specific, then I'll probably be able to answer that a little bit better.
Well, there you go, Nathan. We're bouncing that one back at you. This is a great question from Steve Whittle. Who was the worst in training at United, and why exactly was it Chucky?
Do you know what? I don't understand why Chucky was he probably wasn't in his early days, but obviously when he got to the stage where we were training with him and he was pretty much playing most of his time in the reserves, he probably thought that he'd done his time. But I've seen players like Gary Pallister and Paul Parker that were sensational players. Played for the country, played hundreds and hundreds of times for Man United, but weren't wonderful trainers by their own admission. It's just very strange that when you have trained with somebody like Roy Keane, who trains like he plays and expects everybody else to do the same, some people just, I don't know, they just thrive off playing in matches. And certainly Gary Pallister was no exception to that. He was absolutely brilliant, Pally. One of my most favourite defenders I've ever seen at Manchester United. But Chucky, I don't know. It's just, I suppose it was just the way he was. He knew that he wasn't going to get many more opportunities in the first team, but he was still a joy to be around, and I've got all the time in the world for Brian McClare.
He's a wonderful man. And we had him on the show before, and you can imagine how, like, because he's so dry, interviewing him was one of the hardest interviews I've ever done, because you need to be 100% because he'll have you.
Yeah, he will. He will. He's a very, very clever man, very witty, very humorous, but like you said, he's very dry with it.
Great. Nathan's been back on and basically wants to know who would be the best company, which doesn't really open it up much more than the first one.
It's fine. I can go with that.
Okay.
I would pick one of two. It'd either be David May, because he just doesn't let up. He's like Zebedee on acid. And I've also got Keith Gillespie, who also is exactly the same, but he's also got a real intellectual side. He likes playing games and doing quizzes. So if I had to choose one, it would be unfair. I'd like Maisie on the ground floor and Keith upstairs. And please don't read anything into that.
That'll be the next clip we show when we get Keith back on. Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, so keep the questions coming in, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a few minutes left. I want to ask you, Ben, we've got we're doing the Man United Legends tours when we're coming up. Who is your Manchester United legend?
Brian Robson, 100%.
Yeah?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's been many, don't get me wrong, but at the time when I became interested in playing football and watching football, more to the point, it was when Brian Robson scored his goal against France after 27 seconds in the 82 World Cup. And obviously being a local boy in Manchester, and Brian Robson was the Man United captain. He was the England captain as well. He was just somebody that not just me, but any lad my age watching football wanted to aspire to. And that was 1982. And 9 years later, I'm walking through the same building, meeting him coming down the stairs, and him actually giving me a pair of boots and saying, you know, would you mind getting blisters for me on these during pre-season? And then letting me keep them, and I've still got them to this day. And that was a real special moment for me, I must admit. Brian Robson, at a time when Manchester United were not at the top of the tree by any stretch, he was the one person that just knitted everything together. He would make tackles, he would score goals, and he would just rally everybody. And I think that Manchester United team of the early to mid 80s, I actually think that they overachieved. I'm not saying they didn't have good players, but I think with Brian Robson there, I think a little bit like your Fernandez's, your Roy Keanes, they bring out the best in you. And I think that's why that Man United won cup finals that year. Yeah. Unfortunately, no leagues until the 90s, but certainly cup finals, because he was just immense.
And he contributed to your book, which I've got here, which we were talking about just before, and he's in here as well, which must be wonderful to you to say all these nice things about him. Then he willingly contributes to this as well.
Yeah, I'm so privileged to everybody that contributed to it, because without them, it really wouldn't have worked the way that me and Dan Poole, the guy who wrote it with me, wanted it to. And Brian Robson, funnily enough, it was Dan that spoke to everybody, and Brian Robson was the only one that could do it at a time when Dan couldn't. So it was me that had to sit outside in a bar in Cheshire, speaking to him and asking questions that I was a little bit embarrassed to ask, but I had no choice. For the purpose of the book, I had to ask them. But basically, I just wanted him to tell me how good I was. Somebody who was absolutely exceptional. That was a very, very difficult thing to do. But a wonderful guy and great company, and yeah, a fantastic player. And again, I reiterate that the players that contributed to that book, it was just invaluable to me, and I know that they all know that, but I just can't say it enough.
Yeah, and as I'll go on record and say as well, it's a great book. Since we last interviewed, I've managed to get through it, and I really, really enjoyed it. And your brother is the funniest person. Like, it's hilarious. The relationship is you, your brother, your sister, and it's so conversational, and your mum and dad as well. It's hilarious.
Yeah, my brother likes to take the mickey out of me as often as he possibly can, and he got carte blanche to do it on this occasion. Well, they all did, to be fair. So yeah, I mean, he had obviously he was heavily involved with Man United as backroom staff in the treatment room, and he knows a lot of the players as well. But he did really grip that with both hands when Dan said, "What at all," and that was it. He loved it.
That's what brothers are meant to do, though. In all fairness, I imagine you'd do the same.
Oh, definitely. If I ever get the chance, and probably one day I will, then I'll be straight in there.
And just a quick one from Keith O'Connor. It said, "Can you say hello to his daughter Kiva? She's a massive fan."
Yeah, again, Keith, Jersey boy, lovely guy, lovely people, lovely family, and Kiva is his nuts little daughter who's got so much character. So, hi Kiva, how you doing, hon? I bet you're glad you're not in school.
I love how you have this relationship with all of these fans. It just really reiterates what Manchester United's all about, because you know all these people by name, and we had Peter Woods on last time from Edinburgh. Like, how is that for you to be like welcomed in with open arms, knowing all the fans, just being a part of this community? That must be a wonderful, I don't want to say end of a career, but a wonderful way to live your life now after all said and done.
I feel very privileged. I think that, it's unfortunate for the fans these days because of social media and security. It wasn't quite as rife when we were growing up at Manchester United. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't a free for all, but certainly now everything is so tight, so heightened, that it's very, very difficult for the fans to get close. And I love the fact that me and plenty of others of the era that I was growing up in can speak freely to fans, and I think it's important for them as well to they know themselves that the link to present day first team players is difficult, but to actually have somebody that's been there and mixed with great players that they probably might not have ever got the chance to meet, but certainly enjoyed watching either on the terraces or on TV. I think the link is invaluable, and we're experiencing it at the moment, and we will experience it. Football is nothing without fans. It's great that it's back, don't get me wrong, but the lads, any team that you will come across in the next couple of months, they will find how eerie it is and how strange it is and how much they will want the fans to be back inside the stadium as much as the fans will want to be back inside themselves. And we know why it has to be, but I'm hoping that for both parties, it isn't too long, because fans are wonderful and that they make football and what it is today. The players are brilliant, but they know themselves that it would be very, very difficult without the following that they had, and especially at Man United. And that's why I feel as though it's important to have a relationship. Hey, listen, you get people, you get your knockers, no question about it. Because I played for United, I always get it, but those people don't matter to me. The people that matter to me are the people that want to give you the time of day so that you can give it back and show that footballers are not morons, they're not idiots. They have a respect for everything and everybody, and that's what I just want to keep going. And not just me, there's plenty more like me, I promise you. And it's important that we convey that, because the fans are invaluable to football.
Absolutely right. And that's something that we do at Superstar Speakers when people get to meet their sporting heroes. That's entirely what our business is based on. And you see all these great names, like we've got Paul Scholes coming up or Gary Neville coming up, and they share that same mentality where they shake every fan's hands, obviously, when they can, and have the photos and do the sign-ins and everything. And it's an important thing. And the fans don't forget it, do they?
No, they don't. They really don't. And you've just mentioned two names there who were obviously guys that I grew up with. And I've done stuff with them subsequently since they finished playing. Nicky Butt, Keith Gillespie, Ryan Giggs, they're all of the same ilk. And it's no coincidence that we all grew up under Eric Harrison, under Sir Alex Ferguson. And that is why they were so successful and why they will be successful in life, because they have the respect. And
Absolutely.
they give respect.
Yeah, that's it. It's a two-way street. Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, we're now at 8:05 already, so we're going to have to let Ben go because he has a commitment in about 5 minutes. But I want to say, Ben, thank you very much once again for joining us here at Superstar Speakers. I want to recommend everybody get the book because it is a good read. And like I said off camera to you, Ben, I'll say it again. I wouldn't lie to you. If it was rubbish, I would say, but it's a genuine good read. It's honest, it's emotional, it's funny. So I highly recommend it. Ben's going to sign it for me when our paths actually cross outside of coronavirus because I'm a massive nerd for autographs. But Ben, on behalf of Superstar Speakers, thank you so much, my friend.
Thanks very much, Rob. Hey, listen, I hope people don't get bored of me, and I'd love to come back on soon. And I'm so sorry that I didn't get to come on with Russell, but it's been a pleasure, mate. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
Cheers, buddy. Take care, man.
Take care. Bye-bye.